My beloved child, don't scroll away. Your soulmate has been trying to reach your heart. This message may be the answer you've been waiting for. Listen until the very end. There are moments when heaven grows unusually quiet, not because nothing is happening, but because something too precious for ordinary words is unfolding behind the scenes. This is one of those moments. You did not arrive here by accident. Out of countless voices, countless videos, and countless distractions, something guided your heart to pause here. That gentle pull you felt was not random. Sometimes, the soul recognizes a message long before the mind understands it. And today, someone has been whispering your name in silence. Not with their lips, but with their heart. Your soulmate has carried emotions they have struggled to express. Every time they tried to find the right words, fear interrupted them. Every time they wanted to reach toward you, uncertainty convinced them to wait just a little longer. Yet waiting has become heavier than speaking. That is why this message feels so urgent. Not because time is running out, but because love becomes restless when it has remained hidden for too long. Have you noticed how certain memories keep returning lately? A familiar face crossing your thoughts. A dream you cannot fully remember. A strange feeling that someone is thinking about you at the exact same moment you are thinking about them. Many dismiss these moments as coincidence. But what if they are gentle echoes? Small reminders that two hearts can still recognize one another, even across distance, confusion, or silence. There is something your soulmate wishes you knew before anything else. They do not see you the way you see yourself. While you have been focusing on your flaws, they have quietly admired your strength. While you questioned whether you were enough, they were wondering if they would ever be worthy of standing beside someone like you. Sometimes both hearts spend so much time doubting themselves that neither realizes they have been longing for each other in the same quiet way. Isn't it remarkable how fear can make two sincere people believe the very opposite of what is true? But this message isn't only about hidden feelings. There is another layer. One that changes everything. Because your soulmate has recently reached a moment of deep reflection. Something happened, perhaps a conversation, perhaps a quiet realization, perhaps simply a sleepless night, that caused them to see life differently. They began asking questions they had avoided for a long time. What truly matters? Who brings peace to my heart? Who still lives in my thoughts, even when I try to stay busy? Every answer kept leading them back to you. Not as an obsession. Not as a fantasy. But as a peaceful presence their soul refuses to forget. Still, there remains one obstacle neither of you may fully understand. It isn't distance. It isn't timing. And it isn't the opinions of other people. The real obstacle is far quieter. It hides inside hesitation. Inside the words left unsent. Inside the belief that, maybe tomorrow, will always be available. But hearts were never meant to survive forever on maybe. That is why this message has found you today. Because sometimes heaven gently nudges both souls at the same time. One through longing. The other through listening. And if you have stayed with me this far, it may be because your own heart already sensed that something important was waiting to be revealed. Yet what your soulmate has been trying to tell you, the words they have repeated over and over within their own heart, have not been spoken yet. Those words carry a truth capable of changing how you see this entire connection. And in the next part, you will finally hear the message they have been unable to say aloud. The words you are about to hear are not loud. They are gentle. Yet sometimes the quietest truths carry the greatest power. If your heart has felt unusually calm while listening, don't ignore that feeling. Peace often arrives before understanding does. It prepares the soul for something the mind has not yet discovered. Your soulmate has been holding one sentence inside their heart for far longer than you realize. Not because they wanted to keep it from you, but because they feared what might happen after those words were spoken. Sometimes love isn't afraid of rejection. Sometimes it is afraid of changing everything. Your soulmate keeps wondering. If I finally tell them how deeply they matter to me, will our lives ever be the same again? That question has followed them through ordinary days. During quiet mornings. Late evenings. And in those unexpected moments when your memory suddenly appeared without warning. There is something extraordinary about genuine connection. No matter how busy life becomes. No matter how many distractions surround two people. A heart always remembers where it feels understood. And somehow, yours has remained that place. Your soulmate wishes you could see yourself through their eyes for just 1 minute. You would stop apologizing for your imperfections. You would stop believing you are difficult to love. You would stop carrying burdens that were never meant to define you. Because when they think of you, they do not first remember your mistakes. They remember your kindness. Your resilience. The quiet strength you show even when no one notices. The way you continue believing in hope after disappointment. Those are the things that linger in their heart. But there is another reason this message feels so urgent. Recently, your soulmate almost convinced themselves to stay silent forever. They told themselves, perhaps it is too late. Perhaps they have already moved on. Perhaps my feelings no longer matter. Yet every attempt to let go somehow brought them back to the same realization. Real feelings rarely disappear because we command them to. They become quieter. They become hidden. But they continue waiting patiently beneath the surface. And that waiting has become impossible to ignore. There is one memory they return to again and again. It may have seemed ordinary to you. A conversation. A smile. A shared moment. Even a brief silence. But to them, it became proof that what they felt was real. You may not even remember it. Yet they have carried it like a treasured photograph inside their heart. Isn't it amazing how one simple moment can become unforgettable when experienced through love? Now listen carefully. Because this next part is important. Your soulmate does not expect perfection. They are not searching for someone without flaws. They are searching for honesty. For kindness. For someone whose heart still believes that meaningful connections deserve patience. That is why, despite every doubt, despite every unanswered question, they have never truly stopped hoping. Hope has quietly survived where certainty could not. But heaven has been preparing something neither of you expected. Small circumstances. Unexpected encounters. Tiny decisions that seemed insignificant at the time. They are beginning to align in ways you cannot yet fully see. What appears random today may one day make perfect sense. Still, one final truth remains hidden. There is a message your soulmate has rehearsed countless times but has never found the courage to speak. It begins with an apology. But it ends with a promise. And once you hear those words, you will understand why this message had to reach you today. That moment is closer than you think. Sometimes, the greatest turning points in life do not begin with a grand announcement. They begin with a single honest sentence. Your soulmate has whispered that sentence in their heart more times than they could ever count. They imagined saying it while looking into your eyes. They imagined writing it in a message. They imagined finding the perfect moment. Only to let that moment pass because they believed another one would come. But the heart grows tired of waiting for perfect. It simply longs for what is true. So if they could stand before you without fear, without hesitation, this is how they would begin. I wish I had been braver. Not because they stopped caring, but because they cared so deeply that they became afraid of making the wrong move. Sometimes the people who feel the most are the ones who speak the least. Their silence is not emptiness. It is emotion searching for courage. Your soulmate wants you to know that there were days when they almost reached out. Their hand paused over the phone. Their thoughts drifted toward you during an ordinary afternoon. A simple reminder, a familiar song, a familiar place, a quiet sunset, was enough to bring your memory rushing back. And each time, the same question echoed within them. What if they no longer want to hear from me? Fear answered before hope could. So another day passed. Then another. Yet even as time moved forward, their heart refused to move away. Have you ever noticed how certain people leave fingerprints on the soul? Not marks you can see, but impressions that quietly shape the way you think, the way you hope, and even the way you pray. That is what your presence became. Not just a memory, but a quiet source of light during moments they needed it most. There is something they have never stopped admiring about you. It isn't something the world celebrates. It isn't measured by success, appearance, or achievement. It is the way your heart continues choosing kindness, even after disappointment. The way you continue believing that goodness still exists. The way you carry yourself through difficult seasons without letting bitterness become your identity. Those qualities are rare. And rare things are never easily forgotten. Yet this message is leading somewhere even deeper. Because your soulmate has begun to realize something that changed the way they see your connection. They no longer believe this bond was meant to teach them only about romance. They believe it was meant to teach them courage, patience, growth, grace. Before two hearts can truly walk together, each heart often has to become stronger on its own. Perhaps that is why life allowed seasons of silence. Not as punishment, but as preparation. Preparation for conversations that could not have happened before. Preparation for understanding that only time could reveal. And now, your soulmate feels that preparation is nearing its purpose. There is one promise they have carried quietly inside themselves. A promise they have never spoken aloud. If I am given another chance, I will no longer let fear make my decisions. I will choose honesty over hesitation. I will choose truth over silence. Those words have become more than a wish. They have become a quiet commitment. But there is one final piece you have not heard. One realization that came to them unexpectedly. A realization that brought both tears and peace. When they understood it, everything they had been afraid to admit suddenly became impossible to deny. That realization will be revealed in the next part. And when you hear it, the meaning behind every moment of waiting will begin to make sense. Not every revelation arrives with thunder. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet certainty that refuses to leave. That is exactly what happened to your soulmate. There came a moment when the noise of everyday life faded into the background. No distractions. No expectations. Just an honest conversation with their own heart. And in that silence, they stopped asking, "Why do I still think about them?" Instead, they asked a different question. What is my heart trying to teach me? The answer did not come all at once. It unfolded gently. Like the first light of dawn breaking through the darkness. They realized that every memory of you carried the same feeling. Not regret. Not resentment. But gratitude. Gratitude for the way you changed them without even trying. Because before you crossed their path, they measured life by achievements. By schedules. By what others expected. But after knowing you, they began measuring life differently. By moments that felt genuine. By conversations that stayed with them long after they ended. By the quiet peace that only certain people bring into a room. You became one of those rare people. The kind whose presence continues to inspire growth even from afar. And that realization brought them to tears. Not tears of sadness, but tears that come when the heart finally stops running from the truth. There was no dramatic event. No sudden miracle. Only a simple understanding. Some connections are meant to change who we become. Whether they begin with friendship, with distance, or with unanswered questions. Your soulmate no longer sees your story as a collection of missed opportunities. They see it as a journey that has been quietly shaping both of you. Every delay taught patience. Every unanswered question created wisdom. Every season of uncertainty revealed what truly mattered. Perhaps that is why your heart has never completely let go either. Because when a connection leaves you wiser, kinder, and more hopeful than before, it leaves something eternal behind. Still, there is one truth your soulmate has struggled to accept. They cannot rewrite yesterday. They cannot return to every moment they wish they had handled differently. No one can. But they have discovered something far more valuable. While the past cannot be changed, the next choice always can. And that is where hope begins. Not in pretending mistakes never happened, but in deciding they no longer define tomorrow. So today, if they could place one message gently into your hands, it would be this. I hope you remember me with kindness. Not because I was perfect, but because everything I felt for you came from a sincere place. Those words have lived inside them for longer than anyone knows. Yet they are only the beginning. Because after that realization came another. One they never expected. They started noticing small moments that reminded them of you in the most ordinary places. A familiar melody. A passing conversation. A sunset painted in colors that somehow felt comforting. These moments did not force them to look backward. Instead, they encouraged them to look forward with renewed hope. As though life itself was quietly saying, your story is not finished. But here is what makes this message even more meaningful. There is something your soulmate has decided they will no longer postpone. A decision made not from impulse, but from clarity. A decision that has been growing stronger with every passing day. And when you discover what that decision is, you will understand why this message began with such urgency. Because the next chapter is no longer about hidden feelings. It is about the courage to finally act. And that chapter begins in the next part. There comes a moment when the heart grows weary of carrying words that were never spoken. Not because those words have lost their meaning, but because they have become too important to remain hidden. Your soulmate has reached that moment. For a long time, they believed courage would simply appear one morning. They thought there would be a perfect day, a perfect sign, a perfect circumstance. But they have finally realized something profound. Courage is not the absence of uncertainty. It is choosing honesty even while uncertainty still exists. That realization changed everything. Instead of waiting for life to become predictable, they began asking themselves a different question. What kind of person do I want to become? The answer surprised them. Not someone remembered for silence. Not someone who allowed fear to write the ending of an important chapter. But someone who chose sincerity. Even if their voice trembled. Because truth spoken with humility carries a strength that fear can never imitate. And perhaps that is the lesson this entire journey has been quietly preparing both of you to understand. Love is not sustained by perfect timing. It is sustained by honest hearts. Your soulmate wants you to know something they have never admitted aloud. There were moments when they imagined you smiling. And somehow, that simple image gave them peace during difficult days. Not because they expected anything from you, but because your happiness mattered to them more than they ever confessed. That kind of care does not disappear easily. It becomes part of who a person is. Even now, when life keeps moving forward, a quiet part of their heart still pauses whenever your memory appears. Not with sadness. With gratitude. Because knowing you taught them that genuine connection is never measured by how loudly it announces itself. Sometimes it is revealed through quiet consistency. Through respect. Through the silent wish that another person's path is filled with peace. Yet there is something your soulmate has only recently understood. They have spent so much time wondering whether you would understand their heart, that they forgot to first understand it themselves. So they slowed down. They reflected. They let go of old assumptions. And in doing so, they discovered a truth that brought remarkable clarity. Real love does not demand. It invites. It does not pressure. It patiently waits for honesty to arrive. That realization has removed a burden they carried for far too long. Now, when they think of you, their heart no longer whispers from a place of fear. It speaks from a place of quiet confidence. Not confidence that everything will unfold exactly as imagined, but confidence that truth is always worth expressing. Because unanswered questions may linger for years, but sincere words have the power to bring peace, whatever the outcome. And so, a decision has finally settled deep within them. No more pretending. No more hiding behind uncertainty. No more allowing yesterday's fears to control tomorrow's possibilities. They are preparing themselves to choose openness. To speak with kindness. To let their heart be seen without disguise. But before that moment arrives, there is one final message they hope you will carry with you. It is not a request. It is not an expectation. It is a promise. A promise so deeply personal that it has quietly guided every step they have taken until now. When you hear that promise, you will understand why your paths crossed in the first place. And you will realize that this story has never been about coincidence. The final piece awaits in the next part. Some promises are spoken for the world to hear. Others are made in complete silence. The promise your soulmate carries belongs to the second kind. No applause. No witnesses. Only a quiet commitment between their heart and the truth they can no longer ignore. For a long time, they believed love was something to chase. Something to prove. Something that had to be earned through perfect timing and perfect words. But life has gently reshaped that belief. Now they understand. The strongest connections are not built on perfection. They are built on presence. On choosing to show up with honesty, compassion, and an open heart. That is the promise they have made. If our paths cross again, I will not hide behind fear. I will not let uncertainty speak louder than sincerity. I will meet the moment with the truth that has been living inside me all along. Those words have become more than a hope. They have become part of who they are becoming. Perhaps that is why you have felt a quiet shift within yourself as well. Maybe you've been releasing old disappointments. Maybe you've been finding peace where there was once confusion. Maybe you've noticed that your heart has become a little softer. A little wiser. A little more willing to believe that meaningful things often take time. Growth rarely announces itself. It simply becomes visible one day when you realize you're no longer the person you used to be. The same is true for your soulmate. They are no longer standing where they once stood. The fears that once controlled them no longer have the same voice. The doubts that once seemed impossible now appear much smaller than they did before. And that transformation did not happen overnight. It happened through reflection. Through patience. Through learning that every season, even the difficult ones, carries a lesson that prepares the heart for what comes next. Now listen carefully. Because this may be the most important part of today's message. Your soulmate does not wish to carry the past as a burden anymore. Instead, they choose to carry it as wisdom. Every misunderstanding taught them the value of clear communication. Every moment of silence taught them the importance of speaking with kindness. Every unanswered question reminded them that life is too precious to leave meaningful words unspoken. That wisdom has become a quiet light guiding every decision they make. And perhaps that same light has been guiding you here as well. Not to relive what has already happened, but to step into what is still possible. The future is never written in fear. It is written one choice at a time. One act of grace. One moment of courage. One honest conversation. That is how new chapters begin. Not with certainty, but with willingness. As this message draws closer to its conclusion, there is one final truth your soulmate wants you to remember. Whether life brings your paths together in ways you expect, or in ways that surprise you completely, they hope that whenever you think of this connection, you remember one thing above all else. You were never invisible. Your kindness mattered. Your presence mattered. The way you inspired growth without even realizing it mattered more than words could fully express. And now, only one final message remains. It is the blessing they have carried in their heart for you from the very beginning. A message not about yesterday. Not even about today. But about the hope they quietly hold for your tomorrow. That final blessing will be revealed in the last part. Every meaningful journey eventually arrives at a moment of stillness. A place where the heart no longer searches for answers, because it has discovered something even more valuable. Peace. If you have listened from the very beginning until this very moment, perhaps it is because your soul was not simply looking for a story. It was looking for hope. And hope has a remarkable way of finding those who refuse to give up on love, even after seasons of uncertainty. Now, here is the blessing your soulmate has carried within their heart all along. I hope your days are filled with peace, even when I am not there to witness them. I hope your heart never forgets how worthy you are of kindness. I hope every dream placed inside you finds the courage to bloom. And if our paths are ever meant to cross again, may we meet not as two people burdened by fear, but as two hearts strengthened by everything life has taught us. That is the message. Not a demand. Not a promise that the future must unfold in one particular way, but a sincere wish for your happiness, wherever your journey leads. Because the deepest form of love is not measured by possession. It is measured by the quiet desire to see another soul flourish. Perhaps that is why this message reached you today. Not to convince you of something, but to remind you of something you may have forgotten. Your heart is still capable of trusting. Still capable of healing. Still capable of recognizing light after seasons that felt uncertain. Never believe that your story has already reached its final chapter. Life has a beautiful way of opening doors we never knew existed. Sometimes through unexpected conversations. Sometimes through quiet moments of reflection. And sometimes through the simple courage to take one gentle step forward. Whatever tomorrow brings, walk toward it with hope instead of fear. Choose compassion over bitterness. Choose honesty over silence. Choose gratitude over regret. Those choices shape a life that no disappointment can permanently diminish. And remember this. The connections that leave us wiser, kinder, more patient, and more grateful, have already given us something priceless. Whether they remain beside us or simply become part of our journey. Before this message comes to an end, take one slow breath. Place your hand over your heart. And silently thank every lesson that has brought you to this moment. Not because every chapter was easy, but because every chapter helped shape the person you are becoming. The best stories are not written in a single day. They unfold one faithful step at a time. So keep your heart open. Keep your spirit gentle. Keep believing that goodness has a way of finding those who continue walking in hope. And if this message brought even a small sense of peace to your heart today, carry that peace with you. Let it guide your words. Let it shape your choices. Let it remind you that every new sunrise is another opportunity to live with courage, grace, and love. Until the next message, may your heart remain steady. May your path be filled with wisdom. And may hope always find you exactly when you need it most. Amen.